Why? Hello there. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. DB333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4, The New Order as Mexico. In the last video, we started to plot the overthrow of a Mr. Rafael Leonidas Trujillo. El Chivo. Or like El Chasshole. No, I could have thought of something more clever, admittedly. I thought that one spot. I need a little bit more time next time. Anyway, yeah, now we're working on planning the overthrow, but we're trying to give some credit to the currently pretty disparate left-wing, leftists and nationalists. Now, right now, there's not many opportunities for them to gain any prominence, but there may still be time left. We're also doing the dirty business of setting up a rebellion. Meanwhile, I think we'll establish some training bases in Holguin. Holguin in Cuba presents terrain most similar to the Dominican tropical climate. Since the Cuban Revolution, the region has been bustling and developing, allowing us to take advantage of logistical benefits while still having at our disposal plenty of virgin land and hills to simulate a variety of scenarios, including infiltration, airborne, and amphibious landings. Let's do it. Meanwhile, let's read. Let's check out Jalisco. More specifically, Guadalajara. First settled by Basque conquistadors, Guadalajara flourished after discovery of considerable silver deposits in the region. Mexico's second largest city has been at the forefront of many tumultuous events in its history, being the birthplace of the first revolutionary government of Mexico during the War of Independence, among other things. The city and its surrounding regions have spawned several mainstays of Mexican culture, such as the alcoholic drink tequila. The iconic music genre of mariachi remains an important cultural and economic hub to this day. Let's go, Guanajuato. We have two here, okay. Actually, I'll go to that another time. Let's see, what do we got? I don't want to touch the air stuff. We haven't done Tepic. Let's do Tepic. The city of Tepic lies on the western edge of Mexico, overlooking the Pacific Ocean to the west. Surrounded by hills and lush jungles, it was formed by 1531 and by a group of Spanish conquistadors led by Hernan Cortez. Over the ensuing decades, its name shifted as the identity of Mexico grew, and the city became the capital of the province of New Galicia. With its medium altitude and its location near the coast, it became intertwined with the trade networks connecting the Philippines, Guadalajara, and Mexico City. Over the following centuries, it saw the city continue to swell in population, yet it saw decline in the 19th century as other cities rose in prominence. Although a shadow of what it once was, Tepic remains the capital of the state of Nayarit. Its industrialization efforts in the first half of the 20th century saw its population explode. Its position is still of great importance in the Mexican economy, and its trade network of the future of Tepic looks bright as it is poised to become a central link in Mexico's growing trade in the Pacific. Beautiful. Alright, my timer started. We've done some more reading. Now let's get some events popping off. A giant stood waiting at the gates of a nunciature, hands clasped, even for the furtive evening meeting. Salvador Estrella Satala felt unworthy of speaking with the Pope's representative to the Dominican Republic. Sure, he possessed a firm faith, rooted in the Catholicism of his Lebanese family, but El Turco, as Salvador was known, was far too fond of skirts and drink. For those sins paled in comparison to the one he had owed Father 14. The reason he was here tonight. Those doubts did not disperse, but deepened as he was ushered inside. To calm his nerves, he ascended the stairs to the nuncio's office. He recited the words of the pastoral letter under his breath. Each human being possesses a heritage of prior and higher laws that no state can impede. The letter had called for freedom of speech and press, and then to be anonymous denunciations that poured from El Caribe in relief to the suffering of many Dominicans whose family members had been arrested in the recent crackdown. It sparked pride in Salvador to know that the full church had unified behind the priest, who had been surreptitiously aiding the opposition for so long. But the church had paid a heavy price as regime slander poured out the window and thugs broke into its masses. The wizened nuncio greeted him with a smile and beckoned him to a chair. Softly closing the heavy door, Monsignor Zanini spoke, his soothing tone and Italian accent as an angel to Salvador's ears. "Father 14 tells me you are bearing a heavy burden. I would ease it the best I can, my son." If anyone could... Yes, it was the diminutive servant of God. And so Salvador said, "I am going to kill Trujillo, Monsignor. Will there be forgiveness for my soul?" Oh fuck, this increased leftist support. I didn't realize that would be an option. Okay, I'm gonna assume that there are gonna be more options to just boost up the US proposal. Huh. Oh. I wasn't even worried about too much about Salinas being boosted, but this is rough. This might be rough. The next issue should be pretty easy to agree on in principle. A Pan-American highway connecting our two nations will prove popular on both sides of borders. I sense some sort of cash coming. Unfortunately, Your Excellency, you are correct. The devil's one is in the details. The Americans are bound to desire some sort of oversight over the project, and they are willing to do so fairly cheaply. However, we shouldn't ignore how this might be an easy win with the PRI. The party would love nothing more than to proudly proclaim that the future of Mexico is being built by Mexicans. The president stopped to give the decision some thought. Letting the party handle the highway's construction will be an easy win domestically and perhaps buy him some more wiggle room for less popular policy initiatives that might come out of this meeting. On the other hand, the Americans' involvement in this project would certainly bring prices down, sparing Mexico's coffers for other projects. Now the party's right. History shows the true cost of foreign infrastructure. Well, we don't really get a thing in the journal for it, but that's alright. Let's promote sister cities. Since the end of the war, the idea of sister cities, the partnering of two geographically and culturally separate communities, has proliferated throughout the free world. The pairing of these communities has led to deeper trust, understanding commercial benefits between peoples who otherwise would have no reason to speak to each other. The sister cities concept hasn't taken root in Mexico yet, and it's time for that to change. By pursuing partnership between Mexican and American communities, be they rural or urban, we can foster mutual understanding and create opportunities for cooperation that have not been possible in the past. Yeah. Yep, I remember. Mañana, bonita mañana. Chelpachingo, workman's slumber. The sun casting its golden rays upon the sleepy town nestled in the embrace of Sierra Madre. But this day was different for Genaro Vasquez. It held a rendezvous of utter importance. The civil assembly had summoned him. Vasquez donned a white shirt. That was a different context altogether. Beneath a denim jacket, accompanied by a crummy pair of trousers. The funds were scarce, but his aspirations were grand, for he sought to forge a new Guerrero, a new Mexico, starting from this very moment. In a heartbeat, he embarked on a determined stride, navigating the streets towards a clandestine meeting point, carefully concealed from prying eyes. Nestled amidst the shadows of a tianguis. But then, with a deafening blast and the piercing screams of terror, chaos ensued. The meeting was not interrupted, but rather it was anticipated. Bullets rained down upon the city, seeking out the members of the civic assembly. Vasquez, already at odds with Guerrero's military police dictatorship, stood amidst the fray as a witness. And in that moment, a revelation struck him. He was spared from the massacre. Why? Was he insignificant? No. Quite the opposite. The first morning of the revolution. Alright, foreign policy. Okay, it's currently equipped with 4 brigades. We'll connect with dissidents in exile soon. And then cruise the Caribbean. To your hometown out of sister cities, -3. Now my hometown is too small to get a hometown. Just it's kind of what happens in small town America. Oh shit, we need more supply. Let's organize some more supply. There we go. Good thing I caught that. Oh, we still have time to worry about that. Hurts with the PP, but we'll cruise the Caribbean. Increases operational strength and cooperation with the Americans. It's decent now. There we go. We don't need any more brigades. I wasn't thinking we do. I'm not adding brigades at this point, though. That might be the Yanks. Okay. Okay, well, this is interesting. We get pro-American proposals. And this will increase leftists and nationalists as well. That actually works great. Raid by Fading Ray, the sun was leading Los Pinos, but President Lopez Mateos and Secretary Ordaz remained. The planning meeting for the upcoming tour of the U.S. had stretched on as the two paced and prattled, as Ordaz is copious notes. Every offering, every ask, every deal was scrutinized until the president failed to stifle a yawn. Composing himself with a grunt, Lopez Mateos said, "One more, and then let's call it a day." This... His finger traced along the paragraphs of text to a lean bullet. Sister Cities Initiative. Looks attractive. Voluntary partnerships between our cities and similar ones across the border. As much as I favor this approach, our rural party members are much more likely to know of Ambassador Wilson's intrigues or the punitive expedition of President Wilson than... Wilson, North Carolina. Lopez Mateos wondered how late Ordaz had stayed up poring over an atlas to craft that line. Still, his point regarding the measure's optics rang true. Mateos sighed, then said, "So we taper our encouragement, focus on promoting this initiative for more receptive leadership. In some ways, smaller towns and cities would benefit the most. A sister-city relationship will be the first opportunity many have to attract attention beyond our border, opening up their tourist trade. Visits to and from their U.S. partners could also be lend to valuable exchanges on municipal infrastructure and urban planning." Lopez Mateos pulled his papers together and stood with the secretary, following suit. In the twilight, he announced his choice. "We'll take sister cities nationwide. If officials object, it's voluntary. Anyway, I'm from North Carolina. I don't know where that is." Well, I'm not from North Carolina. I don't know where that is either, so we are in agreement, Jeff. Let's work on the Bracero program. At the time of its signing, the Bracero program was merely a show of support for the states during World War II, sending laborers instead of soldiers north of the border. It has since become something much greater. Mexican braceros, migrant workers, enjoy fair wages and honest work in the Californian labor camps. Now there's talk of ending the program. This will never do. President Mateos has had an eye to expand the program beyond its original stipulations, and by doing so facilitate larger cultural and economic exchanges with the U.S. It will take effort to sand off the rough edges of the agreement, but like the braceros whom it concerns, the president is willing to use some elbow grease. Well, there we go. It's helping out the leftists a little bit. Sisterhood success. The best moments in any job, let alone those of your presidency, are those when someone else does your work for you. Since I promoted the already existing sister cities concept, nearly every city has gone and claimed one north of the border. While it's great for culture exchanges, it also gets people going in excitement for their country. My popularity rankings have reflected that. Look at that. $36% for the pan. More like 6%. Voices for clean, accountable, democratic politics in Baja. More like moralities, no seats in local Congress. Complete pre-control. At dawn, Enrique and Sebastian had arrived at the polls. Full of hope, by noon they received word that 4 of their fellows had been arrested for inciting social dissolution through spreading Trujillist propaganda. At 2, they witnessed a Mapuche openly stuff a ballot box. Challenging him, the duo were quickly flanked by local police and by a local tough and a police officer. The pre-thugs were still beating Sebastian when a bruised and bloodied Enrique managed to pull himself away and ran home, threw himself onto the bed. 1,000 pains engulfed his body, and the hours slipped by. At some dark hour, the campaign office called. They said many things, asked many questions, but all Enrique could hear, booming again and again in his battered mind, were the results. 6%. 6%. He set the phone down. Enrique's trembling hands took his pen pamphlet, its blue and white emblem proclaiming a bright future for Mexican democracy. Enrique took his signed letter from Rosas, thanking him for his months of effort. Enrique took his photograph of the pen campaigner, his own boyish grin in the front row. He laid them one atop another and tore them to shreds. The scales fall from another pair of eyes. Oh, that just hurts. Let's connect dissidents and exiles. I'd rather not work for the FBI if we don't need to. Our cooperation is decent as is. Oh, and this will increase our, if we rally OAS support. It will greatly increase. Oh, there we go. We got good relations now. Beautiful. We can do some stuff to get the strength going. Maybe another round of Caribbean patrols. I think that would work quite nicely. Lopez Mateo stared into the crowd of scientists and bureaucrats. Their excitement and energy were palpable. Earlier this year, nuclear missiles nearly brought the world to an end before cooler heads prevailed. In spite of the destructive power of these weapons, we must remember that rocketry can also be used for peaceful ends, chief among them is space exploration. It is in pursuit of this noble goal that I announce the creation of a National Commission of Outer Space. Holding for applause, Mateos looked to the audience again. He focused on the front row where the two most important attendees were seated. Some say that space exploration is best left to the world's superpowers. But I know that the people gathered here today will prove them wrong. The Commission's first director will be Jorge Suarez, the renowned engineer and researcher. He will work closely with Walter Cross Buchanan, my Secretary of Communication and Transport. Buchanan has been working on rocketry since the sexenio of Ruiz Cortines. He's already managed 2 successful launches. With all our academic and material resources united behind these 2 men, our future is bright with hope. Please, give them a round of applause. As no one sat down, both Suarez and Buchanan rose to shake the president's hand. Your Excellency, thank you very much for this opportunity, Buchanan said quickly. You can thank me by producing good results. I know manned missions will be wishful thinking for decades to come, but satellites shouldn't be out of the question. Science and ambition, no bounds. There we go. Now we can cruise the Caribbean a little bit more, get some more strength going. He took the paper out of a typewriter, quickly glanced over it. No, it doesn't sound right, he thought. He would have to start the introduction all over again. He might have been an expert in Mexican-Cuban relations, but he had yet to master the simple introduction. He always wanted to dive into his analysis and findings, describe in intimate detail the theories he had come up with for how Mexican-Cuban relations were governed. He sighed, placed the paper into the nearby trash, and prepared to put a new paper into the typewriter. He checked the time as he did so. It was 10 minutes to 10. He only had another hour before he'd have to start heading to his first class of the day. His mind wandered to the last class where he'd been teaching about the Cuban Revolution, its relationship to the Mexican Revolution. His students had been combative, more than usual. They had complained about the authoritarian methods through which Cuba was ruled, along with lack of representation throughout the governing bodies. He had tried unsuccessfully to explain that it was because the government had to help teach the people. The people would inevitably prosper under the government's leadership, but he had seen that they were unconvinced. The new paper was firmly in the typewriter once more as he began again. Yet now he couldn't get the thought of that class out of his mind. The youth today didn't have a spirit of his generation. They all seemed cynical. He couldn't help but wonder where the revolutionary spirit had gone. He returned to writing a little more cynical. The end of the Lobster Wars. Well, the mood in the office of President Lopez Mateos grew more tense when he and Secretary Diaz Ordaz broached the topic of the Bracero program. There was an unspoken understanding between the two men that this was a particularly delicate issue. The Bracero program, which sent Mexican workers north of the U.S., was controversial on both sides of borders. You must decide what it is you want to prioritize, Your Excellency. As you know, the Bracero program in its current state is mutually beneficial. The Americans get their cheap labor and we get a steady supply of foreign currency. Yes, I understand that. But you must see that it brings me and many families great pain to see how the Americans treat the men and women we send over the border. They are shameless in their exploitation of our people. And yet, if we try to extract greater protections for Bracero workers, we risk farmers going for unregulated migrant labor instead. Perhaps think of how you might use that as a bargaining chip to extract other concessions that we seek. We shall maintain the status quo. For now. We got some time to have this back up, I think. Let's get some hemispheric friendship going. The U.S., with superpower stride our northern border, is the rightfully a diplomatic concern of ours. But it must not crowd out other friends and regional partners, from Cuba to Panama, from Ecuador to Argentina. We will extend a welcoming hand and an invitation to Mexico City. There we will gather and deliberate, discussing how we can best cooperate to fulfill our shared goals of prosperity and independence. Afterwards, of course, President Lopez Mateos will cement those bonds with an unforgettable party. Bases increase the number of brigades. If not, maybe add more training bases to puff the Legion more. I might do that, yeah. I'm saving up to cruise the Caribbean one more time. It looks like this might be maxed out, but I'll buff it out as much more if I can even more. The desert sun seemed to dance on the horizon, shimmering as the snoring sun beat down on the sense below. Hordes of destitute, the famished and the unemployed gathered around an office in hope for a better future. One of farm labor in American fields. The Bracero office symbolized a new start for most, though right now, for Miguel Alvarez, it was the finish line. Standing behind hundreds of men, yelling and clawing their way to the front of the line in hopes of being allowed to cross the border. Miguel had been pushed back for what felt like hours in multiple failed attempts to reach the front. Panting and dehydrated, he pondered if it was worth it. The money was good, but was it that good? He had come all this way, hundreds of miles and days. What was he thinking? Was his family, his newborn daughter, destined to be stuck in this cycle of poverty just as he had for 20 years? Hell no. Pressing forward into the massive humanity lying in front of him, he focused in. He slithered sideways, finding crevices and holes in the almost liquid crowd. Miguel strong-armed those around him like he was back in his neighborhood gangs. Men screamed as they became crushed by those behind, though he powered through with ease, stopping only for a second as he heard a loud snap under his foot. A blood-curdling scream was sent through Miguel as he turned to face a man on the ground, holding his broken leg to his chest. His other hand clasping his skull as Elvis trampled over him. Petrified, Miguel thought of helping, but he had to continue. After another excruciating minute of maneuvering, he finally reached the front of the line, and a tear fell down as he officially handed him a paper. The last one. Congratulations. Idea if it would be 5 regular brigades and 2 armored being possible. Mexicans wouldn't let armored units into British grounds. I know the U.S. can send an armored brigade. Well, we have the 2 Cuban units, which are supposed to boost the. Okay, we can go ahead and do. We can cruise the Caribbean. There we go. Let's connect dissidents and exiles as well. I played the U.S. a little bit. Mexico, I think, should be able to send one to produce light armor. Yeah, I think we just ended up prioritizing the, We'll slightly increase the stress of Lopez Mateos. There's a stress mechanic now? Is there gonna be a fucking therapy pop-up soon? Alright. Huh. The office was a touch brighter this morning, Mateos noted as he turned his gaze out towards the skylight before him. Outside the bustling streets of Mexico City, delegates from all over the Americas were gathering to discuss the issues of the day that were facing the hemisphere at large. Mateos was wondering if any of the other delegates were having as much trouble as he was, deciding what exactly those issues were. Your Excellency? Ordaz spoke, interrupting Mateos' thoughts. Without a firm stance, Mexico's role and importance in the conference will be diminished. To CK3 now? I guess. Just what I was thinking as well, Salinas cut in. Your Excellency, the Americas will try to use the conference to push the Americans. Will try to use the conference to push their own agenda. And that of the OFN. But the OFN is not the Americas. The Americas are not the OFN. Mexico is an increasingly important geopolitical force in the Americas, and for our dignity as a state, we ought to put our values at the forefront, namely our role as a mediator and partner to the Latin American nations, particularly with the Caribbean. They are our cultural and political partners, friends with the Americas. I've heard enough! And I don't have to reiterate your stance. You don't have to reiterate your stance, Ordaz. I already know the next words of your mouth will be about how the United States is our most reliable trading partner, that we have to support their firm anti-fascist diplomacy. And I know that you support this because you believe that by giving the Americans the limelight, it will earn us favors from them in the future. It sounds like you've already made up your mind already, Your Excellency. I have. Dio says he turned to address his two advisors. Alright, let's give it to Ordaz. It's going to be the best bet. Mexico stands with the free world. Mateo going to have a mental break and gain the drunkard or lover's box trait. That's what I'm wondering, man. That is what I'm wondering. Let's get frontier culture going. There's an obsession that Mexico and Americans share in equal measure. It's frontier culture. Stories of vaqueros, cowboys, and brave pioneers have inspired generations of Mexicans and Americans alike. Mexican-American film lovers enjoyed motion pictures of righteous gunslingers and villains in Black Cats for half a century. But stories of a cavalry company making a desperate last stand against a horde of red Indians is ubiquitous on both sides of the borders. This shared fascination could be exploited to strengthen relationships between Mexico and the States. By funding a number of joint film projects, President Mateos will prove that Mexicans and Americans have a shared heritage to be proud of. We have good relations still. I think we can save our political power and put it back into our economy now. I think I'll do that right now by expanding stable crop productions in the southeast. There's my timer. I feel like you should stream until you do the conference focus at least. I would if I could, but I got stuff to do. I still gotta go for a walk. I got some work I want to work on before I go to bed, and I gotta wake up at 6:45 for work. I had to call in. You know, I had to call out today because I got food poisoning or something. But I want to make sure that I go in tomorrow because I don't want to. I only work 2 days a week anyway. I don't want to miss both days. I have time to read this focus, if nothing else. Last time Antonio de la Maza had said Enel Turco, his best friend's blurred form, was framed in the sights of the pistol. The massive Lebanese Dominican called out de la Maza for letting Trujillo get away with the murder of Tavito. Had said that he wouldn't have sold his brother's life for a sawmill. As drunk as they had been, as enraged, it was a wonder they'd both survived that night. Excuse me. Now, Antonio stood outside El Turco's door, feeling the warm autumn air of Hispaniola. Diaz told him that Tony Imbert had been visiting Salvador almost nightly. Since Tony had been planning to kill the goat, a dictator freshly denounced by the church, it was all too obvious what the fervent Catholic was up to. But Antonio's damn hands felt heavy, and the ulcers in his gut panged. How long had he stood there on the threshold? Rapped his fist on the door. He barely said hello to Arani as she opened, barreling past her to the kitchen. Cards were in the hands of Amadito and El Turco, 45 Antonies. You laughable assholes. Is that what you're planning to do with it? Figures. You haven't had 5 years to plan that bastard demise. I've got real guns and real backers. Yankees, Mexicans, our own damn military. I just need more folks stupid enough to fire them. Salvador's narrowed eyes hadn't left Antonio's face, but he pulled out of the kitchen chair behind him. As Tony lowered the pistol, Amadito started dealing him in. There aren't enough sawmills in the world. Just like there aren't enough minutes in the world, there's not enough time for me to keep recording. I got endings here, folks. But thanks always for watching. Like this video if you liked, dislike, didn't, leave any comments, feedback down in the comment section below. I read all comments I get, and I appreciate any feedback you have for me. Check out my various links down in the description box below. Leave any comments, feedback down in the comment section below. And yeah, that's going to be it for now, my friends. I thank you all for watching. My name has been Mr. Dogboat333, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.